Hi, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Very similar to the presentation we just had, actually, from Willis Towers Watson around personalization and choice within global enterprises. So we're going to focus really on how the world has moved towards more personalization, but particularly around where people are working at the moment from a location perspective. Flexibility in the workplace is having a profound effect on comp strategies. So is it time we rethink reward practices in general? A recent quote from Korn Ferry sums this up quite nicely. The pandemic has redefined our approach to rewards to suit the needs of the emerging new normal. And according to Korn Ferry as well, some of the top trends in rewards used by organizations post-pandemic are to tie your rewards to your programs to your purpose and your mission, and to elevate health and well-being, as I'm sure we'd all agree, and to differentiate your reward practices from your competitors. And then crucially, what we'll focus on today is the increase on the focus on workplace flexibility, where people are doing their work. And so as the shape of organizations are changing, the nature of work being carried out, particularly in office-based roles, lend themselves quite naturally to be location agnostic, supported, of course, by the right technology, where outcomes and results are the key driver of success, rather than just clocking in and clocking off. Presenteeism rarely results in better outcomes, I think we'd all agree. And a work-life balance is now seen as a given for any EVP. And we have seen organizations experiment with this further still, where work from anywhere initiatives are being considered. And despite the more recent attempts by Elon Musk to perhaps take us backwards, the impact on this on reward will be huge, of course, with internal considerations to salaries, allowances, benefits and pensions, through to external factors such as taxation approaches. And like with any new initiative, it will likely take some early adopter organizations to see genuine success before it goes wider still. And the global pandemic has increased that workplace flexibility, from ways of working to locations of working to also how we're rewarded for that work. And flexibility and personalization is at the heart of everything we do in our personal lives, and our work life shouldn't be any different. Take Shopify, for instance, the e-commerce platform for online retailers. They've recently introduced and built this flex comp to redesign how their employees receive their cash versus their equity. They don't see any sense in the company dictating how employees allocate their own total reward. And they also know that life is complex and dynamic, and so vesting begins right away, and allocation windows will open a few times per year, not just once a year. And the focus for them is on those three key elements: agency and autonomy for their people, clarity, bringing all rewards into one platform, and the impact it's making, tying rewards to the company's mission, as we talked about, with compensation directly linked to the performance that's being made by the employee. And so, with greater autonomy over where work is done, inevitably location-based pay becomes a consideration. So is it going to be flexible salaries for flexible workers? Companies like Slack and Meta and Google, while they do embrace working from home initiatives and working remotely, more crucially, they're also looking to maybe determine pay based on where employees live. This could mean something like a 25% reduction in pay for people that have moved from a high-cost, city suburban location to a more lower-cost countryside location. In practice, this means a Google employee that's based in Stamford, Connecticut, which is an hour away, from New York City, would be paid something like 15% less for working remotely. While in other, cities like Seattle and Boston and San Francisco, there's a 5%, 10% difference in that. And crucially, they will not change an employee's pay if they work fully remotely from the same location. And so research by CIPHR shows that as many as 68% of British companies are contemplating pay cuts for staff who opt to work from home. And this is also despite 53% saying that they've actually saved money during the pandemic with people working from home. And as we joked about earlier, with Elon Musk, this topic is likely to not go away anytime soon. And while on the flip side, here in the UK, Marks and Spencer's are allowing their retail managers to decide when they do their hours, spreading their hours over 5 days or working a 4-day compressed week or a 9-day fortnight. And actually, M&S say that gives their employees choice and autonomy, of course, but given the nature of retail work, not always being the best example of flexibility by definition, it's actually a really important step forward for them and the industry. And of course, the trend towards supporting employees with benefits continues to grow, and the need to provide physical and health support and mental health support continues to increase given the environment we're in, and with the challenging financial environment in particular all around us. Financial planning and well-being, the mechanisms for those are as important as they've ever been. The old adage of benefit packages being the key differentiator for candidates is as true as it's ever been. So what about genuine personalisation in this environment? While the concept and execution of personalisation across reward has been around for a while with flexible benefit programs, these have been around in many territories for 20 plus years. Everyone in this room will know them well. And it does continue to grow across the globe. And given a diverse menu of reward programs to choose from, no two employees or humans, as we should call them probably, wouldn't craft the exact same package. It's very unlikely to create exactly the same package given those choices. And that says everything we need to know about the demand for personalisation. Factors like age and family size and where they're at in their career, and their goals and objectives, of course, many other items contribute to those choices. So one opportunity for for organisations in particular, is to be driven by employee sentiment and the feedback as part of a natural BAU. This can be particularly used for understanding the effectiveness of the current spend on reward programs. Therefore, you start to achieve that oversight on ROI, on that huge investment that you're making into your people. And questions such as the following can be asked and answered with confidence and with evidence. Are reward programs having the desired effect that we set out to achieve in the first place? Are people satisfied by them? Which ones do they rate as more important than others? And perhaps has that changed over the course of the last year? COVID has had a big impact on the value people place on what's important to them. And another shift that is happening in relation to this is the increase in networks and pods of teams, not line management and org charts delivering on work. This is especially true across service delivery and professional services industries. So, in that environment, people come together as a team with different skills from different parts of the business to deliver on a piece of work. And that actually means the on-point person who often decides your compensation progression requires input from various people into the performance and impact of that individual, and they would actually rarely have that oversight on the work being done. And actually this is a bigger shift than it might sound, because the impact on us as reward people means that we need to be more agile and be more nimble and be based on competency within skills and the impact those skills have had on the outcomes of a project. And a really exciting innovation that this results in is the democratization of reward. And what we mean by this is opening up access to high levels of comp to anyone willing to acquire and utilize, in-demand hot skills. And so by removing some of the traditional barriers to high levels of comp, such as tenure and seniority, it places less of an emphasis on promotion being the only way to achieve your comp goals. So, triggering a promotion just to move into the next pay scale often negates the value of the promotion in the first place. While, of course, new roles and responsibilities will come with that promotion, very often it was compensation progression that's been one of the major factors in that push for promotion. So let's step into how this might actually impact your pay gaps or an organisation's pay gaps of the future. And then for us, this is actually all about just monitoring Monitoring as part of BAU. Typically, reporting on pay gaps is a once-a-year static snapshot. It often requires manual data gathering. Instead, monitoring it for potential issues, to preempt any actual issues occurring. It's about baking it into the employee life cycle as well, from hire all the way through to exit. So as part of any recruiting activity, as part of job changes and those promotions that we talked about. What is the impact on this hire, on our pay gap? What is the impact on this promotion? What would closing this whole factory do to our pay gap? And increasingly for our clients, this also means auditing across all reward categories, allowances, pensions, grandfathered legacy, cash comp and benefits. And this allows the organisation to be truly transparent, when it comes to their pay inequities, which of course boosts the EVP and the brand further still. So of course, how can technology support, what we're talking about here? And that's kind of the crucial part. Change is, of course, constant, as it should be, and having a base to start from is the key. Organisations would do well to gather a total inventory of the total reward investment being made. All the items that you're providing currently, the full investment you're making, enterprise-wide across all your countries. That increases visibility and establishes a complete index on your total spend. And as we touched on, this absolutely should include all rewards, salaries, allowances, investments in well-being, bonuses, share plans, insurances, any other pension and benefit you can think of, spot recognition, some of those more micro, local rewards, including all of that into the database. That forms a real-time database, and it supplements your existing technology stack, so across your HCM solutions, your payroll solutions, the spreadsheets that are inevitably out there, also your benefit vendor technology and any other consulting solutions. It's a real mix of technology across, and it's similar to a question that was asked earlier, I noticed, around the different types of, the complexity of technology in play. Once you've consolidated that into a real-time database, you get that visibility that organisations struggle to see. And many of us in HR, as we talked about, are familiar with flexible benefit windows and open enrollment seasons. And actually calling them windows and seasons, and similar to that, suggests that structured, that once-a-year opportunity to make some choices, or when a big life event occurs. But for us, the opportunity for more frequent personalisation is growing because of some of those changes we talked about from an org design point of view. One size does not fit all. This is especially true, as different worker profiles come into the business. So hyper-personalisation is the big opportunity for organisations at the moment. To what extent can we offer true flexibility across all reward, perhaps trading fixed pay for variable pay? What will employees do given those types of opportunities? And I think we'll see this growing over the coming years. And this agile approach to structure versus personalisation ensures the entire worker pool is available to an organisation. People seeking that flexibility, people wanting part-time and remote work and contracting work. That allows even current workers to be more fluid within their organisation. So organisations can take an agile approach, to reward personalisation. Of course, within legal parameters, they can experiment with more choice for employees, and employees taking ownership of how they receive their total reward, not just their fixed pay. And as we talked about earlier, organisations should then ask and listen to their people, similar to the previous conversation around listening to your people. And this means requesting employee feedback, to understand employee sentiment towards their current plans, in order to spot wastage in your spend, maybe further opportunities in your spend. Align that data with the real cost to the company that the database that we talked about monitors. And that provides a better understanding of ROI and effectiveness on that spend. And unsurprisingly, employees place a really high value on total rewards. Therefore, any proposed changes to these programs, any changes to the status quo should have employee sentiment almost underpinning it in the first place. And the whole organisation, including HR and finance, will then be in a more informed position to consider any effective reward changes, going forward. And then just finally around, as we talked about, this could be more than just a once-a-year activity. It can be, obviously you've got the open enrollment and flexible benefit approaches with budgets and salary sacrifice mechanisms, or allowing employees to swap perhaps one undervalued reward and replace it with a more valued reward, outside of these windows, all the way through to complete freedom over how their total reward is received. As I say, this could include experimenting with, implementing a skills allowance perhaps that reflects a price per skill and is available to anyone willing to acquire that skill and showcases a competency within that skill. And as we touched on, this means the earning power of more junior people, increases, the potential increases and democratizes, and is not restricted by promotions and tenure and hierarchy. And just to say as well around, analysing total reward data, having that oversight and that insight into that vast spend. Reward is one of the largest expenses in any organisation, and yet it's the least understood, it's the least analysed for ROI and effectiveness. So having this type of inventory and database of all your reward programmes is crucial for that oversight. So in summary, organisations should allow employee sentiment to help craft what the hybrid approach would be, what it would look like, and experiment with new ways of rewarding. Understand how successful the current spend is, what impact is it having, what are people satisfied by. Hyper-personalisation is coming, without a doubt. That ability to flex your compensation as well as your benefits is absolutely going to be coming in the future. And experiment with skills-based compensation. The move towards more skills-based comp is a major driver of reward, and it will change the way people look at their earning potential, and it will likely lead to employees focusing on the types of skills they need to acquire and use, which are then rewarded in year, rather than looking at your job architecture and what they need to do just to tick the box for a promotion. And then so as organisations ensure their total reward philosophy is fit for the future, they'll do well to do it within an agile and open mindset, not necessarily be led by that current job architecture and the frameworks that are inherent in that. And it'll be fascinating to see how this whole topic evolves over the coming years, as the changing shape of organisations actually has a profound effect on total rewards, and conversely, how comp demands driven by things like the skills market will impact the shape of the organisation in the future. Thank you.